Good morning, community. Welcome back for another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita. I am your host, Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, founder and CEO of Dr. Anita Enterprises, where I serve clients as an executive coach and team dynamic strategist, typically focusing in the area of diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Today, we are talking about setting our intentions in terms of our finances. Remember, in our monologue this month, we talked about setting aside resolutions and moving towards intention. And today, I am so excited to have a subject matter expert with us, Mr. George Thompson, the founder and owner of Thompson Wealth Management, also the author of several books, but two that we're going to focus on today are Set for Life, The Mindset of a Champion, and The Wealth Cycle, Building a Financial Legacy, which are better known as the Ready, Set, Grow series, available on Amazon.com. And as if being founder and CEO of his own organization and writing several books isn't enough, Mr. Thompson is also the pastor of stewardship and finance at Faithful Central. I find it very interesting that the title pastor of stewardship and finance go together, because typically most of us, our financial approach is to write out the bills and then pray about it. And that's all the strategy we have. I think you're going to give us a little bit more strategy than that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anita, thank you so much for having me.
In your honor, I'm wearing my money green jacket.
I appreciate that. I see that. And hey, look, you look younger every time I see you. You look like now, what, 21, 22 now? I said, you look younger every time I see you.
Heart. You know
That's
why?
right.
Honestly, I'm going to be really frank, because I'm more comfortable in my money situation. And that's the truth. When you and I first met, and I cannot believe that it's been well over 15 years ago, you came and you did a talk for the Black Caucus of the company where I was at the time. And I was so impressed and educated that I contacted you, and my husband and I came in and we had our first consultation with you. And we've been a client of yours ever since. And so I appreciate the compliment, but it really is because we've gotten more secure in our finances. Because when you first met us, all right, full disclosure, we were a financial mess, like most people are, right? And you have educated us, you have given us tools, you have given us guidance. Our portfolio continues to go like this. It might go like this, but it goes like this, versus had we been trying to do this ourselves. So I'm just going to give honor where honor is due and say thank you for helping us figure some stuff out. And that's why you're here today, to talk to my audience as our financial subject matter expert.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But also, I want to give you a compliment too, is that you listened to what we said and you took action. Like right now, that's one of the things, like when we talk to people, we all say, hey, make sure you're taking action on some of the things that we were saying. Like to give you an examples, like you remember when the pandemic first hit? One of the things that happened was, remember, they said it was going to last 3 weeks. Remember, and the markets went down. Everybody was oppressed, and then I came out, kind of got popular. The pandemic list. You remember that? We started talking, and by the way, I'm not giving out recommendations, but the companies we were talking about, remember, Disney, we're talking about Clorox.
Yeah.
Remember that guy? So you remember
If I remember any of them, I remember
Clorox. I said, hey, and everybody goes, the amusement parks are closed down there at Disney, down in Orange. Disney, I said, yeah, but they streaming hard. And then we started understanding. That's where knowledge, when you come in, you get knowledge and understanding, and then you take action. You have to actually learn how to sacrifice, and then it becomes part of your nature, and you begin to like it. Right. So, like you obviously know, like we're doing good today, and nobody's run by and jumped. Just to let your listen know, I interviewed you on a show, and my daughter ran by and jumped up and down the screen, then left and did all this. Is that, see, I'm teaching you got to learn how to do it, because see, the sacrifice got to be bigger than you. If you look at all the teams, I'm going to use football right now and basketball because they're both in season right now. See, you watch players give it up, not for themselves, but for the team, for the organization to get better. And you see certain things that happen with the family. So it's the exact same thing. Like, for example, there's this beautiful stadium that was built, $5 billion, over $1 billion down here in Inglewood, SoFi Stadium. Look it up if you got the time. It is an absolutely beautiful stadium. And one of the things is I took my son to the game and everything. So they know that we're going to Costco food court. I'm sorry, I'm plugging things. And, you can buy a hot dog there for like $1.65 and
they're good.
Get sandwiches. Yes. And then do you want a slice of pizza? We can do all that stuff and doing it, because we went to SoFi Stadium. And they were selling, you know, the Gatorade that you can buy for $12 for 24. They were selling them for $6 a piece. Hot dog was $8. They had a piece of bread with some sauce and cheese on it for $12. And my son took a bite out of it. I made a video and everything. He said he didn't want it. I said, son, somebody gonna eat that pizza. we eating this pizza. But you understand that my kids now know. You see, I'm training them that, oh, Dad, hey, we don't really eat it, gang. You know, we don't do that. Like, we drink water. You know what I mean? Like, we don't drink all this other stuff. You know what I mean? Like all the sugary drinks, because then people can't pay attention in school and different things. So what we're doing is, see what I'm doing? I'm showing them, and these are sacrifices. They're showing sacrifices that I make. And that's part of our culture. Then they like it. Because when we go to Costco food, I say, you can get. I pull out $10. I'm like, get whatever you want. Knock yourself out. Because then it's not really a sacrifice. But you go up in any event center. You people are all over the country, all over the world. You can't do too much with $10 inside the place.
You know what? You're actually teaching them. No, okay, so the whole thing about we're drinking water instead of, sugary stuff. Not only is that like a sacrifice, but it's also better for your body. But when you just mentioned about, okay, well, we can spend, like, the whole family can eat off of $10 if we all go get a hot dog and it comes with a drink, right? It reminds me of when I was coming up, and my parents, they did all the right things. They invested. I remember that the financial planner, his name was Mr. Hostetler. And every time he came to the house to me as my parents, he always gave me and my brother a silver dollar. And we saved those silver dollars. But what I remember right now, in particular, when you're talking about the hot dogs and how you can like feed all of your crew for like $10, I remember I was in junior high and okay, so now I'm fixing to date myself. Jordache jeans were popular, and I told my mom, I want some Jordache jeans. I want some Jordache jeans. She didn't say no. She said this: would you rather have one $30 pair of jeans, or would you rather have three $10 pair of jeans? And what did I do? I went for the three $10 pair of jeans. So what you're teaching your kids is the value of money, right? And there are times when you want to splurge, but you can't live like that all the time because it just doesn't make sense, right?
That is a great question. So that's something that you have to learn.
Yeah.
That I'm glad she did that, because what she's actually teaching is something called generational wealth. Okay. Whenever you get ready to pass something to somebody, you have to pass two things. First is so people go, oh, you want to pass the money? No, you have to pass the knowledge.
Yes.
Not knowledge, actually, wisdom. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, too.
Yes.
Knowledge is know-how.
Wait. So give us the distinction. Knowledge is what and wisdom is what?
Right. So knowledge is information, is know-how. Wisdom is experience knowledge. Like we're here in Los Angeles. Down, if you drive a little bit down to San Diego, you see that big Navy SEAL thing you see that military base. So they're teaching younger, people how to drive the tanks, but they're using the video games. Like they're showing them how to do that and how to fire and how to do it. But what you really need is the people that have been in Afghanistan that know that, hey, before you come through that door, you might want to throw the flashbang on the ground. You might want to come in low in case they shooting high. You know what I mean? Like, see, so what does the person have that played the video game over the person that sat in Afghanistan and came through those doors? That person has wisdom. The other one has knowledge. Wisdom will keep you alive a little longer. And so, you know what I'm saying? Wisdom has a benefit to that. So we want to also we also want to teach people. We also want to have them learn wisdom so that they kind of understand it, but it has to be practical and you have to walk them through it. Yes, you were
what you just said about wisdom and knowledge, it brings to mind an analogy that I'm using a lot lately. And I don't know why I'm using this, but in particular, it's always been like the myth that Black folks can't swim for whatever reason, our bone density and all these other crazy things, right? Is it that we can't or that we don't because we've not been taught? There's a difference. And so when we talk about money management, we say in general, I can't manage money. Well, is it that you can't or that you don't because you haven't been taught? And now I'm talking about everybody. Right?
Yep. And you know what? So I'm sorry, I'm only going to be on the soapbox for 2 minutes. I'm getting off. So some of you may not know this about me, but I grew up in the Midwest, and my dad started teaching volleyball programs and even started doing it. And I started playing volleyball. My dad started training me, my twin sister, my brother, and I actually got a scholarship to play at Pepperdine. And I'm one of the first African-American volleyball players. Yeah. And one of the things was they say, oh, Black players, they can't pass, or they can't do this, or they can't do that. And I was sitting there going, or they did this to me all the time. I actually went to school with Montel Jordan. It's funny. People always thought he went to USC, and we were both tall. So people would always walk up to us and go, are you on the basketball team? And we would say, no. And then the next question was, are you sure? Because they didn't know how we were at Pepperdine. I was like, oh, I'm sure. And then
maybe I'm here because I got an academic scholarship. That's a whole other discussion.
Right. But you understand? So what happens is people begin to, this is another, they begin to label you based on what they've seen in the past.
Yes.
So then now they start seeing Black players play volleyball, start seeing Tiger Woods, some people play golf. And then, but this is where the transition happens, is we have to model it. You see, just like some people say, Black people don't show up on time. I'm chronically early. I'm chronically always on time. Too. And we always teach it. So I actually teach even in my millionaires in training before. It's like one of the things I do when I'm teaching class, I always say, hey, look, show up 15 minutes to 20 minutes early. I go around and meet all the speakers. I used to, when I travel around the country, there was this thing, speaking circuit, when I used to speak and do over 100 seminars a year, I always show up a day before and send a text to the people. Hey, I'm here. Yes. I was speaking at a financial conference, and I was supposed to speak in an area of mutual fund. The person that was doing insurance didn't show up, or they missed their flight, or they were trying to land right before the thing. I said to the guy, I said this, I can do that presentation. I said, matter of fact, I have the PowerPoint right here. And they said, okay, do it. And they go, well, how much extra, how much is that? And they said, oh, we'll work that out, the speaking piece. Then they were going to move the person to my time and do the other thing. They had me do both.
See?
So do you understand that? So you understand that time is money. So showing up. So number one, you got to change. You got to not believe it, and you got to do what you got to do.
Yes.
And then the last thing I say about it is that we have to learn to model. I model things to people. People come to me all the time. Will you mentor me? I'm like, no, I don't mentor. I model.
So before I get into my first question, I really want to re-emphasize what you just said about being early. There is something that I often tell leaders. Early is on time for the very reasons that you just said. Right. On time is actually late, and late is just flat out lost. If you're early, you're on time for opportunities that may not have been available or present, right? If you're on time, you might be on time for the event, but now you probably have to sit towards the back because, the seats near the fire and the knowledge are all taken up. And then late, well, why even be there? Now, there are occasions where these things can't be helped, but you set your intention to be there early so you can get the most out of any situation. There's that. And then you're talking about buying properties. And just as a side note, I bought some property, so I think you're going to be proud of me. But anyway, I digress.
Right.
So my first question for you
is... Before you answer that one question, I know we already put a pin in that about showing up on time and doing that.
Yes.
But if you guys later on, when we start talking about money and income and different things, you don't know how many opportunities I've had from showing up early. One last thing about it is this, is that let's say you show up and the speaker is you meet the speaker and you meet everybody and all the connections. You wrote down all their names, you got all the information. The speaker's fire, because this has happened to me a few times. The speaker's fire. Then at the end, everyone's waiting to get their autograph and everything. They're not going to remember you with 50 people, but you already got their name and number.
That's it.
Go ahead.
Yep. And sit up front. All right. So first question. And then I want to talk about your two acronyms, MIND and SLOW. But my first question is, how did you become financially savvy?
Oh my gosh. Okay, guys. So that's a good question. I'll try my hardest not to cry at the end because actually my mom I used to go shopping with my mother, and we used to go on this little store in the street, and I used to watch how she bought stuff. And then after a while, she'd say, George, I want you to buy some candy at the end. Like here's an extra $100, then you can buy candy. And I started watching what we bought, like let's say peas, potatoes, meat, different things. I started kind of watching the flow of how the money, kind of how the products work, and how the groceries work. And I wouldn't buy it. I would start to actually buy some of the extra food and have it for the following week. So then I found out, like, let's say it was canned at the time. And I'd say, you know what? And then I went to the store one time when she was there. I walked down there. I said, hey, I noticed that you guys have these dented cans. And they'd say, oh, yeah, they're only 25 cents. You know what I mean? Like now I'm dating myself. They're much less. So I started collecting dented cans. Then one time I went to go to a volleyball tournament. My mom gave me $20 to go down and buy the groceries. She said, George, you just go down there. And then what I do is I'd collect the things, and above the refrigerator, right above the refrigerator, that little area in every house, I would put all of the stuff up there, all of the supply, all the things that we had. I kind of noticed how we flow. My mother gave me a shopping list, kind of like now, gave me a shopping list.
Yep.
I went downstairs and I went to the store, came back, and I gave her a bag, and the bag only had milk in it. She said, where's all the rest of the stuff? I said, hold on. And then I started getting down all the other everything else she asked me to get was already right there. And then she kind of saw that I had a $20 bill the same in my pocket. And she goes, I think, son, you might work in the financial industry later. And then me and my brother played in, and we started investing in real estate. And we found out that with this attorney, he started investing in the properties, and then he died. Sad, but he died. But we found he didn't put the properties in our name, and they were in his name, and that he didn't have. I don't know if they didn't have the will, trust, but his family, and we lost all the money. And I used to sell cellular telephones, and I saved up all my money for a year. It was at that time it was a lot of money. It was about $10,000 to $15,000. And I lost all the money. And I said, I don't want other people to go through this. So that's how I started off investing. But then that's how I wanted to teach other people how to do it. And then I learned how to buy the company. So I learned all these other things about investing. And then I just set a goal I wanted to make $1 million. I want to have $1 million in investments by the time I was 35. I started when I was about 28, 26. And it took me till I was about 31 to do it. And I did it. Yeah, I did it that was purely in stocks. That was before I really did real estate.
Wow. Now that right there is a story about intention, which is where we're going to go next. That's what we're talking about right now, is instead of making New Year's resolutions, we're talking about intentions, specifically about our money. So you talk about 5 levels of financial being and 4 stages of financial growth that are used to achieve success by using one's mind, which is an acronym, and the SLOW method. So MIND is an acronym for money, intelligence, need, and discipline. And SLOW is an acronym for spend it, lend it, or own something. Where should we start?
Well, first of all, everyone, listening, you want to make sure you find out what your financial being is. So everyone's at one of 5 levels. So right now you can type it in, shout it out where you're at. But right now we have to figure out where you're at. So there's 5 levels. The first is struggling and sinking. That means you have the inability to pay your current bills. The next level is steady. You have just enough to pay your bills. But if something snaps, crackles, or pops, then you fall down to struggling. So that's not, then the next level is solid. Solid means you've been working somewhere for a while, putting in the 401k, taking a 1-week vacation, maybe giving time, at your church. Actually, you can give on all levels. But then you have solid. The next level is surplus. That's quite simply extra money, like where you're making decisions based on whether you want to, not that you would say have to. Now, you go to a restaurant and you order what you want, not, I used to, when you're in college and you look at the price, then turn around and go, do I like that? You know what I mean? Like that's not surplus. Surplus, highest level is service. That's where you're not concerned with finance at all. You're just doing whatever your purpose, whatever God put you on this earth to do. So one of the things is we find out what your financial being is. We look at what level you're at, and you already know this through my total wealth management system. I want to find out what level you're at and then bring you to the next level. If you're struggling, I'm moving you to steady, because you can't. It's very difficult from struggling to service in 90 days. So that's why we're doing this. So we want to move you from one level to the next level to the next level to the next level, and give you the tools to be able to do it. And that's utilizing the other acronyms that you utilize that you just brought up right now. But the first thing we're going to do is find out what level you're at. And then we're going to figure out how to get you to the next level.
So let me ask you this. I love this. Struggle, sink, steady, solid, surplus, and service. What kind of research did you conduct to come up with these 5 levels, and what did you see?
Okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
That is from me traveling around the world for over 20 years, looking people directly in the face and looking at them and going through their financial situation and walking them out of it. If you really look at it, Dr. Anita, what I'm really doing is I'm taking a lock and picking it and pulling something off of your back so you can stand up. If you're struggling, I'm just trying to get you to where you can be steady. Do you see what we're saying? It's like you're underwater. I'm trying to pull you up so you can breathe. And then I'm gonna show you, hey, look, this is how you breathe. But hey, man, let me show you how to get out of the water, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you understand when I get you to then look, when I get you to solid, you're driving in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Surplus is flying a plane.
Mm-hmm.
Then you understand when you're in service, then you understand, then you just sit, then you fly in private. You flying, and then all you're doing, and then you're doing that. Because that's why not only is there the research, it is, I want you to, when you get to every level above that, you understand when you're steady, you're also talking to someone that is struggling, and you're also talking to someone that is solid. You see, you want someone above you and someone below you so we can all keep coming up together. Because, like there's, when I went to family reunions, everybody would always, I would notice certain things. You know what I mean? People have to come down and pay cash, or you notice things with your family, and you see the people that are doing things, or I'd pull up in the car I'd have, then people pull up in a rent a Range Rover. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but just make sure you got Range Rover money, okay? If you want to drive a Lambo, drive whatever you want to drive, but just make sure you have that, and you can still do everything.
I'm not even sure that we're going to get to these two acronyms because so now you got me thinking, okay, so let's talk about, well, first of all, man, my mind is just going, you just said so much that I want to unpack. So let me say this. So you mentioned the fact that, okay, the family reunion, some people fly in first class and some people, they get the Greyhound. Either way, you're there, right?
Exactly.
It's like, okay, you think you can afford a Mercedes, but just because you can afford the payments, can you pay that $150 oil change that's necessary, right?
Right.
Can you pay whatever comes with that? Because if you can't, then you can't really afford it beyond the payments.
Right.
So then my question for you is, in the struggle, where do most people end up being here? Or how do most people get here? How does that happen? Is it not being aware of your mindset?
So this is the thing, and then I'll give you one on that. That's why mind is so important, because actually all these things begin in the mind. Mm-hmm. Remember I told you I went to the family reunion? It's so funny. I'm shout out all my family members in Chicago because everybody's from Mississippi, but my Chicago. I go to the family reunion, and this little kid walks up to me. It was just a little kid time. He's like maybe between 10 and 12 years old, and he says, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just sitting there. And he walks up to me, there's a whole line. There's about 300 people at this reunion. He goes, hey, Uncle George, they told me that you're from the rich side of the family and that you're rich. And he said, but you don't have any, he says, but you don't have any like gold chains, and
where's your bling,
you don't have
Uncle
a spinning.
George?
And he goes, you aren't spinning and everything like this. I said, man, I have a watch on just because I need to know what time it is, because me and Dr. Anita don't like being late. And I said, the only other jewelry I wear is my wedding ring. And that's because my wife has told me that not to leave. It's like she said, baby, don't leave the house
without it.
Don't you put this on like Wonder Twin powers activate. Okay, open that door, put that age. And then he starts asking me these questions, and I can just see me opening up his mind. He goes, but if you're so, he kept saying rich over and over to me. If you're so rich, how come you don't have any gold chains? And I saw you drive up in this regular little van, because I, like at a little van and thing, like I said, well, first of all, that van is rented. But I'm going to explain to you what the difference is. I'm going to use another word. I started talking to him. I said, some say wealthy. And I said to him, say wealthy. He said, wealthy. He said, what's that? I said, so what's your uncle? First of all, I'm not rich. What I do is I would say, but some people consider me wealthy for this reason. I said, you see those buns over there for the hamburgers? Where'd they come from? He said, Walmart. I said, okay, so I own that company. And he perks up. He says, you own Walmart? I said, yeah. I said, where do you think the hamburger? He started naming companies. I said, you see how the DJ's over there? And you see that little Apple sign up there? And he said, yeah. I said, so I own that company. And I said, just look in the parking lot. He goes, you own those cars? I said, I own it. I said, the metal they come on, how they got produced. And I started breaking down everything. And I said, so now, because then these other relatives start coming with gold chains on. And I said, so we start talking. And I start breaking down all the elements of it. And then I start telling them that your money has to make money. Then some of my relatives start coming over from Mississippi. And I said, you guys understand you have to build a farm. And I said, what's on a farm? And they start saying chickens, cows, pigs, and horses. I said, there's only two ways to make the farm bigger. How do you make the farm bigger? And they said, oh, simple. You either buy more animals or the animals reproduce. And I said, and then the kids all started, yeah, reproduce. I said, so then you have more chickens, more. But see, what you do is you don't every year kill all of your animals. Do you see what I'm saying now? I'm showing them that then I can see parents start to nod their head. Because I'm not preaching a sermon, but I'm trying to show them they start nodding their head. Like, that's spending all your money, essentially. And I said, but now, but what I do, and I turned to the kid and I said, this is it. I have a farm that's just not in one location. So what I do is I have a farm, instead of chickens, cows, pigs, and horses, how you make money is you have dividends. Those companies I just named, Walmart, pay dividends or have capital gains. And then I said interest and income. If I own a home, the people pay me rent to stay in it. So that's how I get more or reproduce. And then the kid goes like this. So now you know that kid now is a little older. So now he's a twin. Now he works in the investment industry. So you understand that, like, that's how you do that. But that's how that started. And that's how I use the mind. And it's showing him that it's a mindset that you need to have. Because like when we use the word mind, it stands for M-I-N-D. M stands for money. We all have money, but we have to have stewardship over it and manage it correctly. The I is what we've been talking about pretty much most of the time. That's intelligence. We have to intelligently use our money. So you understand that if we have the choice of I'm taking this from your mother, I'm sorry, or I believe it's your grandmother, that instead of, would you like one pair of $30 jeans, or would you want three pair of your mother, or do you want three pair of $10 jeans? That's intelligence, and doing it. And then you have to have a need to want to do it. Like just like working out, you have to want to be wealthy more than you want to be eating out every meal all the time. And the D, quite simply, is discipline. So people have to use their mind.
Okay, go back to need. The need to save your money or the need to be out flossing every night. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Get into that. Talk about that, because especially, and this may be a misplaced comment, but this is what comes to mind. As an entrepreneur, we spend time, going out and having meals with folks. You're having consultations and strategy sessions, and that can add up a little bit. Or you've got good old Zoom that says, hey, let's have a virtual coffee break, right? But let's talk about that. The first time, and this was years ago, that I went to meet someone over, just like a networking thing. They went to this like high-end place that at the time, back when, I would go on special occasions, but that's how they were rolling all the time for lunch. So let's talk about that. The need to be conservative or the need to what?
Well, this is the whole part. And this is where the term balling, this is where balling on a budget, starts, is this.
Okay.
Look at and we do this, our firm, we look at how much we're going to spend a year, but we actually use a different word. And then I'm gonna do my best, or I may bring up my kids in a minute, is that I don't spend money, I only invest it. So you have to just let me know if me and you go down to the most expensive restaurant in Orange County or LA, is that a good investment? What's the goal of the meeting? Is the goal for us to network and learn? If me and you and my wife have a diversity and inclusion meeting and everything like that, well, you already know we're not going to the biggest steakhouse, but we may on your husband's birthday, your birthday, we may do that. You have to look at where's your best ROI, and in doing it. But when you start looking at it as investing instead of spending,
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm about to raise my hand now. Everybody is best. Like I have not really spent any money on my kids. I invest in them, and I tell them that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Like I know everybody don't throw nothing, and then the people want to call me up for child abuse and everything. I don't buy my kids Christmas gifts. And the people that all watch my shows know that I buy them stock, and I buy them. I bought my daughter. I buy all of them. I buy them real estate, and I had bought a property and I'd spent $34,614.18 on a renovation of that property. And then my daughter's birthday is on January 22nd, and it's funny. One of the things about her doing it is that she that's the unit number, and she on this property that we have, we had a party where they said they're having an American Girl party
Mm-hmm.
at the school, and it starts at 1. And then they said at 3 o'clock they're going to go to the Cheesecake Factory out the Grove here in LA.
Now, just for our viewers, American Girl is a place where they've got all different types of dolls, right?
Now hold on and tell. Do you know what the price of these dolls are?
No clue.
Okay, gotcha. They start at about 3. These dolls can go in upwards of almost $1,000. Like you spend on average $500 or $600.
So you need to consider that as an investment, right?
Oh no. Okay,
no.
Let me finish.
Please, because you lost me. All right.
They said at 1 o'clock they're having an American Girl party, and at 3 o'clock they're going to celebrate this other girl, invited her to a birthday party. They said at 1 o'clock they're going to have an American Girl party, and 3 o'clock they're going to be at the Cheesecake Factory. I said to Grace, I went to school. I said I let her mother know that we'll be there at 2:45 for the cheesecake event. There's no need for us to go to an American Girl party and have them sell dolls. I turned, okay, it's okay. The child abuse people, get ready. I said to Gracie, Gracie, that company's owned by Mattel. You let me know if you like for me to invest that exact same amount of money in Mattel stock.
Okay. So now we're talking about a mindset thing.
Yeah, we're not doing that. I'm not. See, there's something called a consumer. And there's something called a producer. I'm about to go back to my family. Is that instead of just consuming everything, and I understand that I'm doing that, but you have to understand that. So now they beat me down over the years, and we've come to an agreement. So my wife and my parents, and they buy the kids certain toys, but I let them know that your dad, just so you know, they see why I go to Costco, and they say Dad doesn't really buy anything unless he owns the company first.
Wait, just say that again. That right there.
I'm gonna say it again on one condition. Everybody get that. That I own these companies first, then we'll do it. Like when I'm like, I think you already saw when I go to the food court, but like I own Costco. So like when my kids go in Costco and they say, "Hey, Dad, can I buy this sweater at Costco?" I'm like, knock it out, put it on the cart.
Yeah.
You understand how I'm operating? But then when they want to go somewhere and just spend it and there's no return on investment, I'm not going to do it. That's why I'm not against American Girl players. Y'all go ahead, but own the stock first. And now, then, gotcha.
Just to clarify for our listeners, Mr. Thompson is not trying to get folks to think he owns Walmart. He owns shares in Walmart, just like we all own shares in all of these companies.
Oh, gotcha. I'm sorry, everybody. So what happens is companies are publicly traded. I'm sorry. We just jumped in so fast. Hey, everybody. I am not giving out stock recommendations or doing these. These are purely examples. They're not saying that you buy this is going to go up today or that tomorrow. I'm just using these examples of owning things, of ownership. So just so you were really clear, Walmart is a publicly traded company. Apple's a publicly traded company. Amazon, all these things that you're doing, these are publicly traded companies. If you would, I'm not giving you buy and sell recommendations today. If you have questions regarding investments or different things like that, Dr. Anita, if you share my information, or you can go to georgebthompson.com and then, or you can also go to my website and we'd be more than happy to help you. I'm using these as examples to show you like how it's done, because I'm modeling. I'm trying to show you like this is not something that I'm just, like people telling you stuff they read in a book or something like that. I'm showing you, no, this is how you do it, and they're examples.
And that is simple. That is simple, common wisdom. I mean, even I believe Warren Buffett has said, if you're trying to figure out what to buy what people use. So I think he recommends like Coke. Everybody drinks Coke or something like that, right? So to your point, if you want to buy American Girl, buy the stock in Mattel that owns American Girl, and then go have yourself a good time.
Right. And this is the thing. And kids are actually ahead of the game in investing. Like they did it. You guys, I'm gonna mention a swear word right quick. I'm sorry, I don't mean to swear on your show and everything, but there's this game, it's called Roblox. Okay. And kids play this game. It's like a game where they can learn and not learn, where they can it's like living in another virtual place. And what happens is
it like Second Life? Kind of like
you
that?
Like that. But see, this is the thing with kids is that you got to take what they're doing, and I was about to say waste, spend a lot of time on this. I've gone into some of these games, and I started opening up grocery stores or started showing them how to run businesses inside of the game. But my son, during the pandemic, came down to me and said, "Daddy, this is a true story. Can you put some Robux on my account?" So that means so that inside the game, he can buy things and use things. It's called Robux. I turned to him and I said, "Son."
The glasses.
I know, I touched him the same way. Because the funny part was that he even would come down and even ask me something that's crazy. I said, "Your father does not use real money to buy fake things. That's not how we allocate our resources." Then he put his head down.
How old is your son?
Oh, he was like 7 or 8 years old. But I say that all the time to him.
That's not how we allocate our resources.
Wait, okay, gotcha. Let me finish this. I'm going to go back to what I said to him.
Okay.
Because and you got to talk like this, everybody. I'm not telling you what to do, but you guys never tell people you don't have the money. I've never one time ever told my kids we can't afford it or we can't do it. If they say, "I want to fly the moon tomorrow," son, that's not how we allocate our resources. Because you actually have the money.
Yeah.
It's just what you're going to do with it.
Right.
Like say, like you're either going to pay your rent or your mortgage, but you can do that. I could go down and buy all the American Girl, but that's not how we allocate our resources. But anyway, where was I? My son came down, said, "Will you buy some Roblox?" I said, "Son, that's not how we allocate our resources." He puts his head down and gets ready to walk upstairs. I said, "Hey, come back." I look up Roblox, the company. I said, "Hey, you know what? Let's buy a share right now." I buy him a share. He lights up, runs upstairs. I have three kids. Gets his brother and his sister, and all I hear is, Dad bought Roblox, the company. They don't. Then all I hear is feet coming down the stairs. I say, "Hey," everybody comes, and then they're all standing right in front of me. They said, "Dad, Alan said that you bought the company Roblox." I said, "Yeah, I did. I bought a share of the company." Yeah. And they both look at each other like, "Yeah." They said, "We're going to go upstairs. We're going to tell everybody," they're doing school virtually. "We're going to tell everybody in school that we own Roblox." I said, I looked them in the face, get my glasses straight. I said, "You go up there. You tell everybody you in school with that your dad bought you guys Roblox. And if their parents want to buy them some, call me." I write down their phone number.
But you're giving them real good life skills to think about the purchases they make and why they make them and what makes sense. And you're teaching them strategy really early. Right. And that's part of generational wealth, is not necessarily passing down a house. You can still lose a house. And I think that's why there are studies that prove that people who win these lotteries in a year, they're just as broke as before they won them, because you can have that tangible asset. But if you don't have the understanding of wealth and how to manage it, you'll lose it. Just like we said, being broke is relative. You can be broke at $150 an hour. You can be broke at, $10 million if you're not managing your money wisely. And so what you're teaching your kids is wealth in terms of how to think to manage what's tangible. Do I have that right?
Yeah. You have that right, but also, can I take it 2 steps further?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm teaching them, but you see what also I'm doing? I'm teaching their friends and teach their parents so we can stop all that. You know what I mean? Like, so that it's coming. See, so that I'm not the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like that. Hey, because all their parents were just buying everybody the Robux and then spending $50 and spending that money. And because you want to know something? Several parents call me, and I shoot. They when we do this on my show, several parents call me during Christmas time and say, I never knew that company was public. Or some people didn't know they could buy Disney. Or they didn't know they could buy those companies because Robux isn't been that long. And then we start going through the chain, meaning like when you get up in the morning, look at all the stuff that your kids do, or look at all the things that are happening. Because I always, I mean, I can't, as you know, Anita, I can't turn it off. If I see something more than 3 times, like, okay, now look, this is going to be a trend. Like when I'm watching how that goes, I'm saying, let's get in early. So then we want to start doing that so that so that they understand the process of wealth building. So I have to also, that's why I drive, just like no different than me driving other kids. This is before the pandemic. Other kids are picking up other kids from football, from basketball practice, or from karate, because I'm trying to put my kids in an environment of success. You can't, that's how you set people up for success. But you first got to set yourself up for success.
That's right.
You know, I'm sure you've flown on a plane in the last 40 years, but what they say is this. They say, if this cabin were to lose pressure, mass will fall down. Now, and
you got to do yours first.
Put the mask over you first, then your children. Do you want to know why? You know, so look, I'm flying on a vacation with my kids, and I fly. This is before the pandemic. I used to fly all the time, and I always watch the thing, and I only sit exit row. You guys know I'm 6'4", so I only sit exit row aisle. So otherwise, or I'm not going. So that's the middle. So or first class. So yeah, and you know what though? From upgrade, I've never, not from buying. Just from from doing it right, So in doing it, but what happens is and I'm flying with my kids, and the flight attendant goes, "Hey, remember, if the mask fall down, you first, then your kids." And then he was a brother. He tapped me when he said, "I said, do you know something about this plane, or should we get off?" He said, and he looked at me and he said something. I'll never forget it. He said, "It is a natural reflex for parents to try to put the mask over their kids first and not them." So what happens is the kids, if they see you passed out because you didn't put your mask on, they see you passed out, they will take a perfectly operating mask off of their face and pass out right with you. That's what people do in life. They put a mask over. They try to do something for their kids, but don't put over them first and then model it. That's why I do what I do.
That is good. That is good. And that is an example that I use a lot when I'm talking to leaders, right? But what you just said, you just put a different twist on it. When we're talking about building wealth, you have to model it and put it on yourself first so that you have it. And the way I explain it, of course, if you're passed out, you don't have the presence of mind to really help little Johnny or Susie anyway, which is why you got to care for yourself so that you can have the presence of mind to care for them. So when it comes to our wealth, we have to have the presence of mind for ourselves so that we have the presence of mind to pass on that knowledge to our kids.
Right. The reason why is because what they do is this is not you, but this is what other people used to do to me. They would come to my wealth academy where we teach kids, right? And I tell the kids, hey, man, save money, invest, do this. And then they would run, and the parent would run their money absolutely horrible. Do you see that? So you know that's who would come to our class. Like when I have a wealth academy, people that didn't manage their money. And then we started doing after the first year, we started having a class for parents first. And I said, y'all, you guys are managing, I don't know how many hours in a week. It's 160 or 180 hours a week, whatever there is in a week. If you're managing your money horribly, then on Saturday morning at 10 a.m., if you bring your kids in and talk to me for 1 hour or 2 hours, and then they go back home with you, and you ain't modeling nothing, all my stuff falls on thin ice. It has to be a together thing. Yes. Like, you understand, like we do family financial planning. Like when we're all sitting down where your kids, let your kids, no, seriously, people, think about what stocks you're going to own, but think about what your kids are going to own. So you do it as a family. So then you're doing, and your grandparents, you know what I mean? Like get them all involved. You guys get the whole family involved because and that's how I started that, because I'm like, parents or the kids would show up with really expensive, like, well, I'd say, hey, dress nice and everything, but they're wearing all of the latest designer clothing. And I was like, Ma'am, I just meant clean clothes. I didn't mean, you know what I mean? And no mini, micro, just that the be covered,
That's not
so
how we allocate our funds. So this brings to mind a thought. You talked about trends. Maybe, I don't know, full disclosure, I'm hardly a financial consultant, but maybe when you're talking about trends and you're making it a family thing, what is it that the kids are doing that maybe the parents ought to be checking out? Like your example with the roadblock, what is it called?
Yeah, Roblox and those games
Yeah,
like that.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
a couple of things. I think that kids, so this is the reason why kids are better investors than adults. I don't mean to discriminate against all of us in this area. It's they have no fear. You see, like if a kid goes over to a refrigerator, and when they go over to a refrigerator and they open it up, everything in there free. See, like everything in your refrigerator, like you worked, you went down the store, you bought it, you just looked at all the other prices, picked that one out, brought it home. It was $3. You cut off $1.25 worth of it, and you ate it. Your other kids just go there, it's free, and they say, "I'm gonna buy eyes. I don't want. I'm gonna throw it in the trash," because they don't have that factor. That's why you're like, wait a minute. You're like,
the value of money.
You done threw 23 cents worth out of the milk. That's what everybody hates Chris. Like, what's going on?
Everybody hates Chris. That's 23 cents of Kool-Aid.
Yeah. That's why I watched that show one time. I was
I'm
like, that's
sure.
that's all I needed. That's all I needed. People like this. Daddy, we want some Cheerios. I said, why are you buying Cheerios when they got a perfect box of Toasty Oats right next to a $1.25 cheap? Okay, man, I was like, that show was all I needed. I said, you guys, I'm free now. We ain't gonna do that.
Free to be me.
I said, that's all I needed. My dad was kind of like that
goodness.
too. But I think it's important that we just do things as a family. But again, you gotta have your financial model together and have an assessment so that you can do things together. So one of the things that I think would be very important for people as they're looking into coming into the first month of 2022 is just evaluate their plan in these areas. The first is the income plan. Where's your income going to be coming from? Things have pivoted. There's one thing got to be, and that's flexible during this pandemic. You know what I mean? Like this pandemic, I don't know. I was the only one that they told us it was going to last a month, and now we're running on about 2 years. You remember that they said it's going to last a month? They said if you wear a mask for 3 weeks, this will all just go away. That's not true. And then now we don't know what's going on with these variants and different things. So you want to have an income plan. And the second thing you want to have is a debt plan. We want to be debt free. One of the greatest moments, I should say, we have to talk about that later time, but was when I paid off our home. When you pay off a home, it's not the day. I thought the happiest day was the day I paid it off. It was a month later when I was driving down the road, and I was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not making a mortgage. I went to a food court. I went to the Fox Hills Mall food court, and I bought one of everything and just put it on a table just before the pandemic, and just said, everybody help me. I don't have a mortgage. Okay. So you have an income plan, and then you want to also have a debt plan. And then you want to have an investment plan that's in two areas. One is investments like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, cryptocurrency, however you're going to do it, that area. And then you also have to have a real estate plan separately, like, hey, are you going to keep this house? It's a wealth-building house. You're going to buy another house. You're going to rent this out. You're going to do this. And then after you have that, then last one, you got to have an estate plan. That's how you're going to pass things on. That's a wills, trust, power of attorney, things like that. So you need to evaluate those, look at how you're going to manage these. And if you have any questions on that, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that. All right.
This was so good. I cannot believe how fast an hour went. We were supposed to get to slow. Give me a 60-second summary of slow. No, seriously, spend it, lend it, or own something. It almost sounds like that's kind of wrapped up in the plans that you gave us: the income plan, the debt plan, the investment plan, and the estate plan.
Yeah. So everyone just really think about right now, like where you're at in life, and look at when you receive money, when you get paid, there's only three things you can do with the money. One is spend it. So look at how much of your assets, or remember, we don't real how much you're spending, but obviously that can't be 100%, because the challenge we're running into is that people are spending, and you see that. And now we talk to people, that you brought that up earlier. You said people hit the lottery, and also athletes. We have talked to people who get settlements and everything like that. And they're the toughest ones are the people that get settlements and everything if they have no financial background whatsoever. That money is spent. They get their arm, and something have their arm, and they got a settlement or something from it, and then there's nothing with it, like in doing that. But the first thing is spend it. And the second thing is lend it. So that won't take a second. You guys, we don't really want to lend it. Lend it is when you put money in the bank. Banks pay 0.001 something percent interest. So it means $100,000. They pay you $10 interest. So I don't know if you've gotten gas recently. So that doesn't outpace inflation. So if your plan is just to spend the money or lend it, that doesn't help. You have to put it into ownership. That means own things, we pretty much covered that pretty much heavily today, is that we want to own things, and doing that. And I use illustrations with my children. I want to own things, but I want to own things so that I can collect dividends, interest, capital gains, and income.
Mr. George Thompson, this has absolutely been amazing. Typically when, people, they envision things when you talk money. I haven't laughed so hard, and I don't know when, but it was all good. The examples that you gave us of how you're teaching your children to have a mindset about wealth. And it's just, thank you so much. I'm thinking, since it's 2022 and we're talking about setting resolutions aside and being intentional, I would love to have you come back every quarter, if you wouldn't mind. I would just love that.
Hey, we can. You know what? I'd love to do a forum. That'd be good to do something like that, and a refresher, and then I'll update you on how things are going, but also in the markets. So I'd love to.
I would love that. All right. Wow, community. So this is why the last Saturday of every month, we have real conversations with a subject matter expert to just put the month's conversation into context and bring us some actionable thoughts that we can put into practice. Again, the two books of the two that we talked about today that George is the author of is
The Wealth Cycle,
the Ready, Set, Grow series. And for more information, Mr. Thompson, where can people reach out to you?
Oh, simple. You can go to my website. That's the best way to go. GeorgeBThompson.com. I actually have a weekly show. It's called Set for Life, that I show you practical skills on how to be successful. And I mean, we have just been every week. It just comes on Tuesday night, and we show you about the different ways of doing it. But you can see all the replays, so of all the shows that we've done, so that they'll bless you. Also, I have my financial planning website, and that's Thompson WM. W as in wealth, M as in management.com. You can go there, and then you can reach out that way. But the best way is GeorgeBThompson.com, but also on Facebook, IG, and doing that as well.
George, thank you so much. Give my best to Kimberly and the kids and community. I want to thank you for joining me for another real conversation with Dr. Anita. This is always about keeping it real. To learn more about my services and my resources, please check out my website at dranita.com. Remember, you have to spell it out, DOCTORANITA.com. And while you're there, click the media link that's at the top of the landing page if you want to hear this show or my other shows. You can also find me on your favorite podcast player, so please subscribe, follow, rate, and review. It means a lot to me. Until next time, community, this is Dr. Anita reminding you to set your intention for a good 2022. Stay blessed and always keep it real.